Hello and welcome to This Morning. I am Abosadi Adekoya. Today we are beginning with breaking news. Okay, so that breaking news would happen later. But today on the program, we are talking about the significance of this day. It's January 15, and what we do is celebrate the Nigerian Armed Forces Remembrance and Celebration Day. And this day actually honors the supreme sacrifice made by fallen heroes of the Nigerian military. It recognizes the sacrifices of 7 soldiers and veterans who have fought under challenging climatic, psychological, social, and even physical conditions. And what they do is to protect and defend the territorial integrity of our dear nation, Nigeria. This date also marks the end of hostilities between the Nigerian state and the secessionist Republic of Biafra following the surrender of the Republic of Biafra on the 15th of January 1970. Today, and this morning, we'll talk about the significance of the celebration and how we can ensure that the sacrifices of our servicemen and women are not in vain, of course, in the light of happenings with security in Nigeria today. My guest is Onyekachi Adekoya. He is a security and defense consultant and CEO of Aquiline Intelligence. Mr. Adekoya, welcome to This Morning.
Thank you for having me, and good morning to the viewers.
Yeah, so today is quite historic. January 15, known as the day for the Armed Forces Remembrance Day celebration. Just quickly walk us through the significance of this day.
Yeah, I think world over, it's very important to remember the heroes of the labor's past, to also understand that without the sacrifices of those who have gone ahead of us, the peace that we enjoy today, we probably will not be enjoying it. So most nation states set aside days like this to remember those who have fallen in the service of fatherland and who have paid the supreme sacrifice, and even also to acknowledge the efforts of those who are currently serving. So it's a very significant day in the history of any nation state. Unfortunately, I don't think that we take such days very seriously, and the body politic, as it were, is not being mobilized fully as it used to be. And maybe that also shows that maybe the fabric of society is tearing or breaking down a bit. The National Orientation Agency and perhaps the Ministry of Education needs to go back to work, and even the subnational governments, to inculcate at the subnational level, even to the local government level, the importance of such occasions as remembering the sacrifices and the service of the armed forces of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. So salutes to those who have served and those who are serving, and those who will serve tomorrow. It's not an easy ask to ask people to pay the ultimate sacrifice in service of fatherland. Those are my thoughts.
Indeed. And do you suppose that the growing call for a declaration of a public holiday on a day like this could go some length in helping to drive home the significance of this day?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, in some countries, they have days that they call the Flag Day, even days dedicated to remembrance or to the salutes or to the commemoration of the flag of the country. Yeah, so I think that we are ripe for such a day. I mean, it's for the federal government to look at, maybe not a public holiday because of its own economic implications on the country and the GDP, as it were. But I mean, I'm all in support of whatsoever drives up the relevance, the importance in the psyche of the average Nigerians of such a day as this. It's for the government to decide what best approach, but I would not be opposed to a public holiday to commemorate fully and properly the sacrifice already done. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, there's no way we'll talk about this day without talking about families. Families of those who have, those who paid that ultimate sacrifice the families they left behind, their spouses, their children. Some of them were cut off in what would call their prime. How would you say we are faring in looking after them and actually helping them not to feel so much the loss of their loved ones?
Okay, I'm struggling to hear you a bit because there's a bit of a playback. But if I heard you correctly, you're asking about the welfare of the family of those who have been left behind and how the Nigerian state is managing this. I don't think we're doing very well in that. We've seen a number of agitations, protests. We've seen reports, and there's nothing to indicate that the situation has improved. Again, it comes down to what I talk about our national psyche as a nation. Time it was when if you wore uniform, you don't have to pay for public transport in Nigeria, where at least the military and those serving are even giving some priority, even in boarding. Some of those announcements are being made, but we don't hear them, particularly in Nigeria at the airports. So maybe not enough is being done clearly in appreciating even those who are serving, let alone those who are no longer in service. So it's a big problem. If you say it's a very big problem, and we're not doing enough. We're not even doing enough in maintaining the barracks, and even doing enough in terms of the welfare and the motivation of the people who put themselves in harm's way. Another case in point, really, is even the current worsening insecurity in Edo State, where the reports continue to emerge that the vigilantes who are serving in arms have not been paid for over 2 to 3 months. And we've called the government to this, and the government has continued to claim that they have been paid. So again, it comes back to our culture of how we take security and how we politicize it or trivialize it or have little or no value for life, let alone those who lay down their own life in service of fatherland. So those of us who are close within the corridors of this action and also have seen the impact firsthand also call for an improvement. And this government hopefully can do more. Having done something with us, so hopefully something can be done for the armed forces and even improving welfare of those who have served.
Repeatedly, we have heard commitments from government quarters about the fact that they would go all out and ensure that the welfare of members of the armed forces is priority for them. Do you see us matching words with action? Because now, there seems to be there are new people now at the helms of affairs. So have you noticed any considerable shifts from what it used to be back then in the past few months?
Well, there's nothing indicating other than statements and statements. Policy is just a guide to action. So when the federal government or politicians make policy statements, we hope that they will match those with action. But the actions on the ground doesn't reflect the promises made, and there's nothing in the near term that is indicating that there will be an improvement. Even though I'll concede that there was some efforts to revamp police facilities across the country. I think that's about that. We've not seen so much. The salaries were allowances I think allowances was reviewed, operational allowances was reviewed at the time, but the living and working condition is still very abysmal. If you look at the world over, members of the armed forces and the police are well paid, well motivated, well fed, well resourced, and well trained. So I don't see much on the ground to suggest that we even have clearly articulated what the welfare program should be and how we can go about funding it and implementing it. So it's still a bit of it's a long walk to freedom, as it were, or a long walk to wellness for people who serve, shamefully so.
All right, and in recent time, we have seen and heard about, talking about these sacrifices, really. A case comes to mind, that of Brigadier General Uba. A very sad development. Someone of that hierarchy in the military, uh, paying that price under that circumstance. That was a very tough one, a tough pill for persons across different strata to actually swallow. What do you think we are not doing right as a country?
No,
Mr.
we've
Adekoya.
said it again. I mean, it's just repeating or begging the issues, really. The lack of clear articulation and the emphasis to security. It's a security culture. Nigeria's problem is hydra-headed. Um, where do we start from, really? Where do we start from? If you have the ideas, it is said that Nigeria has good policies on paper, or it's even the implementation. Where do you start from? Is it the fact that the federal government is overstretched, trying to do too much at the same time, therefore failing in areas that are critical? For example, the federal government is getting involved in unity schools, even getting itself in administration of tertiary institutions, and therefore it's carrying too much load. Yes, the subnational government will argue that it takes the bulk of the lion's share, but you see, the business of maintaining the territorial integrity of Nigeria is very expensive. Maintaining a fighting force that is well motivated and well trained, well resourced is also very expensive, let alone dealing with issues of their welfare and their morale, and then the work tools and the rest. Um, I don't think we can sufficiently in one sitting exhaust the whole issues, really. But if, for example, the federal government was a bit leaner, chose a path of creating the policy environment and monitoring those frameworks and environments, and focusing more on territorial integrity issues, macroeconomic issues, and leaving more to the subnational governments, maybe, just maybe, these issues that are core to the federal government and to the Nigerian state can be better dealt with. So for now, it does seem as though that the system is stretched thin across multiple fronts, grappling with even the things that the federal government should not be grappling with. And therefore, they cannot place a proper emphasis, sadly, on where it should be. I think that's the core. Every other thing is a symptom of what is at the core. And that's why you see this administration trying to reform, and I don't think this administration will successfully complete all those reforms, but reform we must, and we must continue going forward. And hopefully we can go very quickly and address some of these issues. So it's a multi-administration, multifaceted, hydra-headed, wicked problem that we face. It just goes beyond one singular. You can talk about NEPA, NITEL, MPA, former staff still protesting. So these issues of lack of proper coordination in welfare of those who have served the country, it's ongoing, and it goes even beyond even the Nigerian army or those in the military.
Indeed, because we have, sister security agencies. You have the police, you have the NSCDC, and you have others in that line like that. You mentioned earlier that Nigeria's problem is hydra-headed. And in the security space, indeed, there are just several things we are dealing with. You talk about kidnapping and abduction on one hand. You talk about banditry on another. I mean, there are just several of them. Now, let's begin to look at these issues, and let's talk about our approach as a country, especially now that we are seeking and we are receiving support the world over to tackle this issue. Let me get your reaction to the operation on Christmas Day last year, where the government of Nigeria and the United States did organize that joint operation targeting the base of terrorists in the country. Talk to me about that and the success or what has followed since, because also we have heard about some government, like the Amoteco, for instance, in Ondo State, parading some suspects who they believe fled Sokoto after that operation. Mr. Adekoya.
Yeah, no, I'll be very frank, and I said I think 24 hours after that strike happened, that the strike was not successful, and I doubt that it was in clear coordination with the Nigerian government. And several weeks later, we've been proven right by reports on the ground that the terrorists had a form of advance notice or suspected some activity because they had noticed some surveillance aircrafts within the area, and they had removed themselves from the scene. Even up until now, the US CENTCOM or AFRICOM Command, and then even the Nigerian military has yet to produce us uh, any evidence, what we call battle damage assessment, showing what was hit and the casualties. So all this claim of precision strike and what has happened is all lost in the fog of the operation. And what has followed following that strike is that we've seen an uptick in activities of these armed criminal groups where they are now embedding themselves, removing themselves on the mountain, the areas of the general strike, and now embedding themselves within civilian population, increasing caution activities in North Central, even an uptick of activities in the Northeast, despite the sustained onslaught by the Nigerian Air Force. So I said on national TV that I mean, I'm not particularly impressed because I was a bit worried. The Northeast is a target-rich region where you have the core base of ISWAP and Boko Haram operating there. I mean, in the Mandara Mountains, in the Lake Chad, the three regions of Lake Chad axis, that general area is target-rich. So if we're going to strike without notice and precision strike, I would have expected those activities to go there. But fast forward, we are where we are. Thankfully, the Nigerian military is on the front foot. We have a seasoned former chief of defense staff who is now the Minister of Defense. And in terms of body language, signaling, messaging, even the surge ops, you've seen the commissioning of the Depot Nigerian Army in Ebonyi State, in other parts of the country, because the president had declared a national emergency on security. And so we're seeing the activities to surge personnel, to surge resources, to mobilize efforts towards addressing this issue. So I think on the part of the Nigerian government, we can see clearly every indication of seriousness to deal decisively with this issue, even in terms of shape and form. It may take us some time to clear out some of these challenges we've had. It will not be a walk in the park. So we welcome the idea of receiving support from the United States, and hopefully the United Kingdom and maybe France and other partners will take a lead from this. And then, of course, let's see some more of this. We're not clear on what was support, so we supplied. We cannot begin to make conjectures, but I think based on earlier 2025 supplies, maybe some tactical communication equipment were supplied, maybe some level of ISR capabilities to improve them, encrypted communication, maybe some munitions, but we're not clear. The American government and Nigerian government has remained tightly about what has been supplied, again, for good reasons also, not to also impair some of the operations that we have. The quantity of it, the quality of it, the scope of it, we're not sure, but something must be made clear, and it's not part of the $348 million Ministry of State and Foreign Affairs contracted deal. Those supplies has not come yet. This is just, as I think, a gift to support the effort, and it's good signaling also on the eve of this near-term disaster in relation between the Nigerian government and American government, that we now see a tilt towards collaboration and partnership, understanding that if you don't troop surge on the ground, you cannot effect any changes on the ground. So I think the Americans are coming to the terms that they may be better off working with the Nigerian military, who understands the terrain, have the personnel, to deal with the issues on the ground. So in terms of signaling, it's good. In terms of direction, I think we're heading in the right direction, and hopefully, very hopefully, other partners can come very quickly. And if it comes from China, Russia, I think the Nigerian government should accept we have a non-aligned position in terms of our international policy and diplomacy. So good to see this relationship with the Americans progressing towards a strategic understanding. We hope for more.
Should we be skeptical when these offers are made to support us?
100%, 100%, 100%. In the
because
realm
I hear
of
you calling on
geopolitics
them
and
to
international
come, France, even if it's China, but then at what cost do these alliances happen?
No, I'm not asking them to come on ground. I'm asking them to also, who will reject a free gift? So any country that feels that they want to support our efforts, we welcome such collaboration. Now, remember that cooperation in the fight against terror post 9/11 is not something to be ashamed of because the world is an anarchical world order where we're now in a multipolar world where you have actions agreed, across fault lines for superpowers. And, this can also spark some geopolitical unrest even on the ground. I'm not calling for any forces on the ground. I'm saying that in terms of signaling, the first people that will likely provide aid following the Americans will be maybe the French and the British government. And I'm saying, in addition, if we receive support from other governments in terms of military consignment, we should also accept it because Nigeria has a non-alignist position. So the many, the merrier. Now, to answer your question on interest, there's no free lunch even in Freetown. Should we be concerned? Yes. Remember that the US effectively has sealed off Venezuela and sorted out major supply stock. There is an impending escalation in Iran, which will also impact on the Chinese. So we don't want to be caught in another man's war at our backyard. The Gulf of Guinea is relatively safe. So whatever this arrangement is, it shouldn't dictate for us who we sell our oil to or who we have relationships with as a country, Nigeria. We are non-alignist. Okay, so should we be concerned? Yes, because this is similar to the carrot and stick. On the one hand, we're receiving military support. On the other hand, visa restrictions are being slapped. So we cannot say that the relationship is becoming rosy. Okay, but the rhetoric has ratcheted down, and we commend the government for also going forward with a lobbyist group to ensure favorable response and relationship with the US. There's nothing wrong with that. Every nation of the world does that, even the NIA or its foreign affairs office. That's perfectly legal. Okay, so I'm just saying, yes, we should also receive these gifts with a pinch of salt. However, Nigeria's interest must be paramount in all of these interactions and engagements we're having. And ultimately, I think you agree that Nigerians want to see an end to this killing. They want to see an end to this menace. They want to see an end to terrorism. And they want to go back to their means of livelihood with peace and some respite. I think that's what we should be focusing on. And anywhere we get help for this, by all means, please.
And would you say that we have made progress in, is it changing the mind now or convincing someone like the US President Donald Trump that what is happening in Nigeria is not Christian genocide? Or are you of the view that it is actually Christian genocide?
Well, it's difficult to know what is going on with US President Donald Trump. His position, he calls it strategic ambiguity. I mean, that's also allowed in international diplomacy. But it depends on what part of the bed he wakes up on and what part of the brain is active at a particular time. His statements are neither here nor there. So I don't think I'll be drawn into any conjecture as to what he's thinking or not thinking. I think what we can just do is that we can look to the Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, a statement from the Secretary of State. We can look to Nigerian Minister of Foreign Affairs, a statement from the Nigerian government, and rough a fair sense of what is really happening government to government. And I agree with the statement that perhaps the rhetoric has reduced a bit for now. Who knows what will happen in the next 1 hour, in the next 24 hours. So for now, it seems as though there's been some improvement. Clearly, the House of Reps and I think some Senate Committee Foreign Affairs elements have been in Nigeria from the United States. They've conducted their own assessments. They've been around the country. They've interviewed some Nigerians. I think they have a fair sense of
Mr.
the
Adekoya.
activities. Importantly, we also appointed ambassadors. So I think there's communication. That communication gap is closing. Maybe that is what we're seeing on the outside.
Let me place you on hold for a moment. The phone lines are open and George is calling from Ikeja. Let's quickly hear him. Good morning, George. Welcome to the program.
Good morning, madam.
Yes, please, we can hear you.
Good morning to the guest. Look, if you want to know.
Okay, it appears we lost connection with George there. If you're able to, would like you to call again. Mr. Adekoya, so let's quickly take a break. When we come back, we'll continue from where we stopped. You know, you talking about efforts that the Nigerian government has been making to, you know, convince the world really and tell the world what actually is going on the ground in Nigeria. Please stay with us. We'll be back shortly.
Meet Benga Oreshegun, a fearless voice and an advocate for the truth. He's bringing fresh energy and bold insights to Journalists Hangout.
Get ready for deeper analysis and dynamic perspectives. Join me and Babajide Kolade Ochitoju with other veteran journalists on Journalists Hangout. Weekdays from 5 p.m. and on Sundays, 1:30 p.m.
I'm Nifebi Oguntoye, news anchor with TVC News.
My day is usually busy and it's difficult keeping up with breaking news stories, trending stories, business news, stock exchange and what have you. But with TVC News on WhatsApp, I'm able to catch up with all the breaking news, real-time updates and trending stories on the go, right on my phone, no matter where I am. It's quick, easy and always on. And here you can join us by scanning the QR code or using the link on our X and Instagram. Why wait? Come to the side of news that keeps you ahead. TVC News, first with breaking news.
Thank you for staying with us on this morning. As Nigeria celebrates Armed Forces Remembrance Day today, January 15, we are talking about the significance of that celebration as well as the issue of security in Nigeria and how we can ensure that the sacrifices of our servicemen and women do not go in vain. My guest is Onyekachi Adekoya. He is with us. Also, our caller the other time, George, is back with us. George, welcome back. Let's hear you, please.
All right, thank you. So what I was saying is that for one to appreciate the work of the armed forces, you need to do a test. Withdraw them to the barracks for only one day. And I tell you, these criminals can overrun Nigeria within that 24 hours. So the need to ensure welfare for them and their families cannot be overemphasized. Declaring a public holiday is not even as important as taking care of them. Look, I was in a flight from London to Frankfurt one day. As we boarded, he said everybody should stand up that a member of the armed forces has entered the plane to greet the person. That should tell you how much they care for such people in their country. Now, if somebody is, these people go out in the morning, they are not sure of returning in the evening. Some of them go to the war front for 6 months before coming back to see their families. And many of them will go and the wife and children of these people are not sure that they would return. If the government cannot adequately or has no sufficient money to care for them as they deserve, why not take insurance policy for all of them? So that if anything happens, their family will not just go into immediate suffering. I have a case of a friend that died in service. And within 3 months, they had to leave the barracks. And they don't have a house of their own. So things like this, I think the military needs to be encouraged. Those who go about, berating our country and badmouthing our military because they did not win elections, they should be advised to stop it henceforth. The work these people are doing, you cannot underrate it for whatever reason. Let's appreciate the little that they can do so that they can do better. That's where I stand.
All right, George. Thank you very much, George. George, there, talking about the impact of our service men and women. Indeed, the work that they do morning, noon, and night when we are resting, when we are sleeping, it can be quantified, and our sincerest appreciation to them for all the great work that they continue to do. And that is the reason when on a day like this, we all can gather to pay homage to those who have gone and those who remain in the service and seek better life and improved welfare for those that are left behind. And that would also serve as a pointer and an encouragement to young people out there to also take up careers in the military and in other security agencies as currently exist in Nigeria. My guest is Onyekachi Adekoya. He's a security and defense consultant and CEO, Aquiline Intelligence. Yeah, so before the break, Mr. Adekoya, we were talking about efforts by the Nigerian government. You spoke about lawmakers who are working to change that narrative, to actually talk about what is happening. Now, there is a report which has stirred conversations online. I'm sure that you would have heard about that report. And it's about that the federal government has approved about $9 million contracts for lobbying service to correct that narrative that there is Christian genocide taking place in Nigeria. What do you know about this?
Well, the information is not fully in the public domain, but I don't think it's 9 million at a stretch. It's broken down into perhaps $750,000 or so on a monthly basis for that type of consultancy. And I understand the nature of those engagements. We provided some of such support within different domains and theater. So I understand if we on the outside assume that it's a lot of money, but really in truth, it's just because of our paucity of funds. For a major consultancy like that, clearly that's about the range. Even some of the consulting majors also draw similar charges, even some of the structuring of loans and facility, their fees, payables, and the rest.
All right, Mr. Adekoya, I need to place you on hold again. Please let's hear from Ada. Ada is calling us from Jos. Good morning, Ada. Welcome to the program.
Yes, so good morning. Ada calling from Jos, Plateau State. Good morning to your guests there, Onyekachi Adekoya. Let me tell you something. Your guests have said it all. It's really unfortunate that our own armed forces Remembrance Day is becoming an annual ritual, if you ask me. I don't know, they should put in place certain things that they must make sure anybody who is in the armed forces will have, like a house. They should make sure they have a house, because that is one of the pressing problems they used to have, when either their husband has retired or their husband has died in the line of action or whatever, So they sometimes what is due to them, they don't get it, and they are now asked to leave the barracks, Their schools are terrible, the barracks are terrible. Even the military, their own is even better. The police is nothing to write home about, so I don't know. I feel so sad. You see their wives weeping on television, how they find it difficult to get what is due to them. Sometimes sometimes they want to compromise them, And it's worse for the other ranks, the high-ranking officers. Their own is even better, because sometimes they make their way and make their money. So that this is what is causing the corruption we have, When the ones that are serving now, they'll be demoralized, And then the government should also equip them. Let them stop this piecemeal operation they are doing. That's why it's not making a headway. That is, let them have a coordinated and joint operation simultaneously. Not when they finish with Zamfara, before they finish with Zamfara. Some of them have escaped to adjoining states, or forests. So they have the expertise. The problem they have is that they are not encouraged enough.
All right, Ada.
We're shouting, let Trump not come, let Trump come, not come. If we don't want Trump to come.
Thank you very much, Ada, for your contribution. So supporting and encouraging members of the armed forces. Mr. Adekoya, you were talking about what a standard as a consultant now would cost, for a project of this nature.
Now, remember, you're dealing with a nation state of 230 million people. Again, I'm not sure what the clear terms, what the deliverable, what the timelines of actions will be. I believe the Ministry of Foreign Affairs will have some of those details. Now, some people have argued that the gratuitous shipment from the United States is perhaps one of the outcomes of the effort of this lobby consultancy. I'm not sure, I mean, whether or not it is. I am not holding brief for them. But there are a number of foreign agents who declare as such. The American laws that support such lobby groups or working freely. So that gives us ears, it gives us eyes, it gives us access, it gives us some leverage within the American quality there. You must understand the way Washington, D.C. works. It works not necessarily on what is wrong or right, but lobbying is a cardinal element in geopolitics, particularly when you are dealing with a nation state like the United States of America. So I think that we've taken a very clinical, linear look at how to improve relations, and then it's now left to see whether or not this lobby group is effective. If we're spending $750,000 a month, the question I would like to ask is, what is the value we're getting? So if we spend $9 million a year to get $1 billion in return, it's a fair investment. By any way you look at it, or $2 billion, $3 billion in return. So it's not bad to spend. I'm a businessman. No true businessman is afraid of spending money. Okay, you're spending money for what? What will be the returns? And so we don't have the terms of the contract, what the deliverables are. We cannot make any sensible comments except one going to realm of conjecture. But it's not absurd. It's not out of the ordinary. Even the Israelis that are close allies with the Americans have different lobby groups lobbying the American interests to favor their own interests. So it's normal.
All right, so it's standard practice the world over. Now, some of our callers touched on some integral parts of the life and the welfare of our servicemen and women. But if we may talk now about some of the things happening on ground in the country, some of the challenges that we are facing and efforts by our security operatives to deal with them. In the budget for 2026, defense and security is taking the highest chunk. That's been like the trend, although some of you would say, or maybe I should just ask you directly, the fact that it has the highest chunk, does that suffice for what we actually need to keep security on the front burner in the country?
You are sending me on a very dangerous errand here. Because this administration, on the one hand, will argue that the spending, it has increased spending, but if you match in dollar terms, there's been no significant movement, if at all we've not gone backwards. The other problem is that the bulk of the spend will go into imports because we don't have on-the-ground capacity. You can't be a great power if you don't have local defense capacity onshore to surge your own activities. If that was for Naira-based purchases, then the figures are finger-licking. But if you are going to have to $5,
okay, can we do the dollar comparison in a moment after we hear from Chima? Chima is reaching out from Makudi. Good morning, Chima. Welcome to the program.
Yes, good morning. Good morning to your guest in the studio, Mr. Onyekachi Adekoya.
Morning, sir.
Chima, please go on with your contribution.
Okay, concerning the Armed Forces Remembrance Day, like most of the callers have said, it's like a ritual. But I think the government needs to go beyond that because the welfare of the fallen heroes and even those in service really matters. And which brings me to the value we place on lives in this country. We really need to, the lives, the instances you are hearing of in Benue, in Jos, and in other states, these are human beings, human lives that have been lost. I mean, there's nothing that is greater than that. So I think the government has to place more value on the lives of the citizens. And another issue is the issue of data. I think it's a problem in this country because I can't remember when last census was done, so we can't ascertain exactly the number of citizens, Nigerian citizens we have, and then who are the Nigerian citizens? How do you know who is an authentic citizen of this country? You know, and I think it needs to be a collaborative effort between all the members of the security structure in the country, both the public service, public officers, and then the private security practitioners as well, because we are the grassroots of security. So
all right, Chima.
We have a lot to contribute. Thank you.
Indeed, there is a lot we have to contribute. Thank you very much for your contribution. Yes, Mr. Adekoya, we're talking about this budget for defense and security in dollar terms.
Yes. So I mean, it pales in comparison to what we should be doing. I think some people have done the analysis, and you need to do pair to pair. If you say we're the giants of Africa, what's the Egyptian budget, defense budget? What's the Algerian budget, the Moroccan budget? What's the South African defense budget like? And then compare in dollar terms the Nigerian security budgets. So you can see what you call the lion's share. When you convert, it pales in comparison to what we do. But that again is dealing with symptoms. I'm saying the deep-seated problem, which we should be concerned, is that we lack local defense capacity to build, create, and search within Nigeria, built by Nigeria for Nigeria, you know, and no matter how much your budget.
Mr. Adekoya talking about the need for local defense capacity in Nigeria, manufacturing in Nigeria, built for Nigeria, and being implemented and used by Nigerians. He believes that would help us get better results as a country. Well, we know that there are actually some firms that are hugely engaged in manufacturing some equipment for the military. Talk about some of these armored vehicles and some others that they use on the war front. But perhaps it's not enough. Perhaps it means we need to support more indigenous organizations who have a thing for this to actually go forward. They need support regarding finances to thrive and to be able to manufacture even more. And also about caring and ensuring that those who are serving are properly taken care of. Some of our callers this morning have spoken about the state of things in some of our barracks. They are not the best of sight. I understand Mr. Onyekachi Adekoya is back with us. Yes, the network, threw you out for a moment, but glad to have you back, Mr. Adekoya. Yeah, so you were talking about the need for local security.
Yes. No, local defense, like to have a local defense capacity in country that can meet our own needs.
All right, so how do we go about putting that in place?
Yeah. Yeah, we have to. We've now come at a point now you need local energy, local innovation, local drive, local efficiency. The law establishing local defense manufacturing entrusts the bulk of the defense capability in DICON. And DICON is a government-owned parastatal. We just talked about the aids that the US sent to us. Following the flight paths of the Boeing aircraft that bought those days, flying through Miami towards a hub that is frequently used for military hub by Lockheed Martin. Lockheed Martin is not a government-owned parastatal, you see. So you need private innovation to come in with private energy, private funds to unlock our local defense capability and even begin to offshore and export to other African countries. We're
I got that,
seeing
Mr. Adekoya. Yeah, to talk about what we've...
Army logistics arm,
Yes, Mr. Adekoya,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, but we just really need to listen to this caller, and then we'll take it from where you stopped. This is Joshua reaching us from Irewolede. Good morning, Joshua. Welcome to the program.
Yes, good morning, Abozede, and I also greet your guests. Very, I'm
morning,
really delighted at the kind of things I'm hearing from him, quite encouraging. And there's nothing big that we can do for the members of our armed forces. There's no way, there's no extent we go to appreciate them that is too big. I mean, the military, the armed forces generally, they are responsible for keeping the society at peace, and we know that. So our greetings and commendations goes to them. The two things I would just touch briefly, because your guest has actually said everything all. I think it's important to start investing more in military hardware manufacturing setups than just this budgetary allocation, and at the end of the day, we don't know really what we've done. We need to focus more on manufacturing these things in Nigeria. We are lacking very much in that area. So I think the emphasis of getting value for the budgetary allocation should be that by now, the defense system should not just be about putting boots on ground or just flying aeroplanes, but that we should be thinking of actually having very, very serious and strong manufacturing hubs for military hardware. And then I think Nigeria should also emphasize more on this diplomatic lobbying. It's very important. I was surprised that we had not actually been doing it until this issue of how much was spent came into the public. We need to do more of that. It's important. We will always get value for it if we do it well. Thank you.
All right, Joshua, doing it well. Thank you very much for that. So, Mr. Adekoya, it appears Joshua was speaking a bit to what you were saying about local manufacturing and the fact that the private must be heavily invested in this same way as government. If you could continue with that, please.
Yeah, absolutely. We are at the point where that has become existential. It's like when we liberalized NITEL, and then we took NEPA off, and then we liberalized the bank. I think we're at the point where that reform is needed in the security industry, whether it be on the state side or in the private security side. So a lot has to go into the reform that is needed, because we want to build a $1 trillion economy. We cannot build it on old legacy assumptions, which are as old as 1960, even 1914. The assumptions upon which we have done security in Nigeria is a cave. To even put it mild, is completely lost relevance. It will not take us there, in soft speak. Absolutely useless as it is.
All right.
So there's an urgent need to rework and reform the Nigerian security industry to bring in local energy, local innovation, local drive, to onshore certain capabilities that we need to take the fight decisively to where it needs to be. And importantly,
yes,
just to make this point, we missed first, second, third industrial revolution, fourth, fifth revolution. And the Europeans and the Westerners that had the technology were able to colonize Africa quickly because we didn't have superior technology.
Okay.
There's a second round of colonization coming from Africa, and we need to be prepared.
We need to be prepared for that. We have a caller from Abuja. Okay. Good morning and welcome to the program.
Adekoya, good morning to your guest.
Good morning.
Yes,
good morning,
I want to celebrate our armed forces on this university. But I believe that we always with these days appreciate them to celebrate them. We should celebrate them every day because many of them are paid with their secure Nigeria. Some Nigerians don't remember the act of the exploits of our armed forces. They celebrate more of the bandits killing our army or attack on our soldiers. You see it on headlines, very bold, bandit kill 5 soldiers. But when our soldiers, our military men, kill the bandits in their hundreds, rescue our kidnapped victims, you will just see a corner of the paper. And on social media, nobody will mention it. But when there's anything against our military, say, look, they are not well equipped, they are not well trained, a lot of vilifying them, demeaning their services. I think Nigeria should put the effort to appreciating the efforts of these people. You hear them say that the USA come to rescue those in Nigeria, but our army cannot rescue Nigeria. Our military army has rescued a lot of Nigeria from the bandits there.
Indeed, Benga. Thank you very much. Yes, Benga. Thank you. Thank you very much. We're wrapping up the conversation, Mr. Adekoya. So with what you were saying, would you say that the issue of state police, the issue of Amotekun Corps in the southwest, the vigilantes, the forest guards who were recently trained and who graduated, would you say it's a plus in our efforts to get to that point? If you could respond to that in about just 30 seconds.
It's a plus in the effort, but when you are paying these people 20,000, 30,000 a month, and then you are giving them arms, in some cases, like Edo, where you have not paid them for 2 to 3 months, how do you expect this to be a plus? So I'm saying state police is important. It will bring the subnational governments to the picture, because for now, our subnational governments are playing politics with insecurity and security. So Amotekun Corps, if not properly resourced and trained, would not make a change. We need the subnational government to be more responsible and more hands-on for we to see that change.
Onyekachi Adekoya, Security and Defense Consultant and CEO, Akulan Intelligence. Thank you, and thank you again for joining us on this morning.
Thank you for having me.
Well, that's our show for today. We thank you very much for being a part of it. A repeat broadcast is at 4 a.m. I am Abosadi at Dinner Adremi. I'll see you again tomorrow. Bye for now.